So, The Execution of Maximilian by Edouard Manet. News about the execution of Emperor Maximilian was just starting to come in to Paris at the time that a major international exhibition was opening, with delegates and exhibits from all around the world. Maximilian was a puppet emperor who had been installed after rebels were overthrown by an international force, and that was led in particular by the French. They maintained him in place with an army, but keeping an army in Mexico was very expensive, and the French troops were withdrawn, leaving Maximilian unprotected. He was captured by the revolutionary rebels and executed with two of his loyal generals, Miramon and Mejia. Manet wanted to paint a large composition to exhibit at the next year's Salon exhibition in Paris. That was the main showcase for artists in France, like the summer exhibition at the Royal Academy. What we have here is the second of three oil-painted versions of the composition by Manet, which he developed as more news and subsequently images were received. The two other paintings are illustrated on the information panel here. In the first version, now in Boston, Manet painted the firing squad in Mexican dress, with flared trousers and sombreros, which he imagined that they'd wear. He then saw photographs of the actual firing squad wearing uniforms very like French ones, and painted this particular version. In the final version, now in Mannheim, he developed the background with a mud wall and observers. The National Gallery's version has a very simple abstracted background, so nothing distracts us from the firing squad. They're standing with their backs to us. Behind them is an officer. We can just see the raised sword at the back in the center, the diagonal there in the back, signaling for the firing squad to shoot. On the right is an NCO preparing his rifle for the final shot or coup de grace to ensure that the person is dead. The squad have just fired off a shot. We can see the smoke and fire on the left. From the final version, we know that this was the first shot fired at General Mejia. We can see the face of the second general, Miramon, and there's the left arm and the hand of Maximilian clutching Miramon's hand. We only have fragments of the painting here. It was rather large to store in the studio, especially when there were two other versions. So the canvas was taken off its wooden stretcher and rolled. Stored in the damp studio, the canvas deteriorated. Photographs of it taken after Manet's death already show the left part missing. The canvas was cut up and parts sold off separately. Edouard, who was a friend of Manet, but also a great admirer of his work, was appalled that so important a painting had been dispersed. He bought up all the fragments he could and had them sewn onto this canvas. The painting as it stands was bought by the National Gallery after the death of Degas in 1918 during the First World War. It was still a very radical and modern painting at that time, as it is now. The firing squad, in French uniforms, are faceless and impassive, totally focused on their job. The NCO on the right has a beard and moustache just like those of Napoleon III, the French emperor. In photographs of the actual squad, copies of which we have displayed here, the NCO is clean-shaven. So Manet is making a specific point that Napoleon III was personally responsible for the whole fiasco and for the execution of Maximilian. The figure is detached from the action, totally focused on his rifle. The painting is clearly a criticism of the French government, and in particular Napoleon III. Manet was advised that it would be rejected by the Salon. He was well used to that, as many of his compositions were too controversial and had been rejected. He wanted to get the composition out to the public, so he created a lithograph which was banned and only published after Manet's death. Thank you.